Good day and welcome back to another edition of Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. We've got a great guest today, a mentor of mine, if you will, a guy that I met on LinkedIn a little over a year ago. We've never met in person, but Tim Rowe, brother, it is great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining.
Man, it's great to be here. It's wild to see, a year later, how much life has changed.
Right? So Tim has, for those of you that don't know Tim or don't follow him on LinkedIn, Tim is the out-of-home insider. This guy knows all the metrics, all there is to know about advertising out of home. So forget your Facebook ads, forget all your social media stuff. Let's get on a billboard, a car wrap. Where else, Tim? Tell us about what you do.
Oh, man, there's so many opportunities, right? Street furniture, mobile LED, billboard trucks. There's just a ton of different ways to go about out-of-home advertising. But it was ultimately learning how to do Facebook ads a bunch of years ago that helped me understand the power of out-of-home, which is just sort of ironic as we're all stuck inside of our homes to talk about. But, yeah, it's a good conversation for a lot of big brands around the world.
Right. And it's awesome to watch you dive in. So you've recently just started a Thursday, kind of a lunch and learn, right? So tell us about what you're doing on Thursdays, informing the advertising world about out of home.
Yeah. So originally the concept for Out of Home Insider came from just there being a lack of conversation at a high level that was attractive to folks outside of the industry. Out of home is quirky. It's cool. It's got a really awesome culture. Which you don't typically associate with, a traditional media. You think billboards, billboard people have a culture, and it really does. So I just dove headfirst into that and learned a few things along the way and realized that I had sort of come up with a clean process to distill that message down so that anyone could understand it, whether it was somebody that's done outdoor advertising before or even just a media rep that's got 15 years in the business and trying to have new, exciting conversations with clients. So once I realized that I had something there and it was helpful and it was being used by other people to just get better, I said, I think I could just do this at scale. To understand why I'm doing this lunch and learn, really, we got to go back to why you do what you do. It started out of a challenge that you issued through the bucket list plan of doing something that I wanted to do forever, and that was to speak, do more public speaking. I submitted to speak at a conference. It got accepted. I was over the moon, and then the world changed, and the conference got canceled. So I had this content. I thought, how can I use it? And it's turned into a weekly session on Thursdays, which is helping folks get a little bit smarter and a little bit better at advertising.
Yeah, so talk about the people that you are helping, though, because you've had some big-time names join on that. Plus, on your podcast, you run the Out of Home Insider podcast, which has been an inspiration to me to actually start Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. So talk about some of those guests you've had on the show because, brother, you've gone to the top in your industry.
Yeah, so I'm really just blessed that there was no one having the conversation. A mentor of mine, Kathy Naz, she's been like a LinkedIn diehard since 2012. So like an OG. And she would always talk about the power of LinkedIn in that you can connect with anybody. You could just slide right into their DMs. So I started asking really big CEOs of companies that I probably had no business interviewing if they were interested in being on this show. So after this week, we'll have had 3 of the Inc. 5,000 CEOs on the show, all specifically from out-of-home advertising. But it comes from just a willingness to throw something out there. And listen, I don't get a yes every time, but the more at-bats that you have, the better chances you have that you're going to hit something.
Right. That's awesome. So if you haven't listened to it, tune over and listen. Even if marketing and advertising isn't your deal, flip over, check him out on YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts, and check out the Out of Home Insider. Tim's got some great stuff. It's raw, uncut. I love it. It's a great listen. But you mentioned, Tim, that you got into this because of the Bucket List Life Plan, and you were one of our first individuals to go through the program. Talk about how the My Bucket List Life Plan has helped you even beyond starting the podcast and doing the Out of Home Insider.
Yeah, so for me, and it's funny because right before coming on here, I was upstairs playing bowling on the Amazon Fire Stick, and traditionally I would have looked at that as a waste of time and maybe beat myself up over it. By going through the course and working with you, I realized that you can turn anything into a bucket list moment if you just apply intent. So I sit down to play a video game. I'm not wasting a half an hour. My intention has become to recharge my batteries. So it's everything from playing a game and not feeling guilty about it to producing 2 to 3 episodes a week, being on 9 different social channels, managing multiple platforms at once, and growing really what's an international brand. Whatever it is, doing it with intention. It's been absolutely a life-changing framework to look at how I approach a day.
I love that, and we've ingrained the word intention into you, because that's what we talk about. Larry and I mention it in every meeting that we coach clients through, the intentionality. It's not about fast sports cars, private jets, extravagant vacations. It's exactly what you talked about, the intentionality, living every day with purpose, playing with passion, right? And doing what you do step by step.
Brad, it's something like the intentionality of it. For me, I think that was always one of the big challenges to getting started. Was all of my goals or my bucket list things were associated with materialistic items. I want the car, I want the house, I want the this and that. And listen, I still want all of those things, but again, changing my perspective on it, I realized, wait a second, like there are small measurables along the way to that, because those things can seem like just big, overwhelming goals. All right, I want the, the Lamborghini Gallardo. Okay, well, I got to make a whole bunch of money to get there. Let me focus on making money, rather than saying, hey, these are things that I enjoy doing. I'm going to do them with the intention of growing a community. I'm going to do this with the intention of recharging my own mental fitness so that I can be more productive when I'm doing the work. Intentionality has changed even the way that I frame a goal in what I can actually achieve today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Tim, you were also one of our guinea pigs, if you will, on the online platform that we released. We were helping coach you one-on-one through the Zoom meetings and so forth. But then we released our online class, and you were one of the first ones that we released that to test out and give some feedback. I'm blown away. Go back to the first conversation we had when you got the first lesson on online per se.
Yeah, so I'm an audio guy. A lot of my life, I'm doing multiple things. I'm uploading stuff. I'm engaging in different conversations, and I'm listening to something in the background, or ironing my clothes before work in the morning, and I'm listening to something. I try to make the most use of my time. So when you sent that out, I'll never forget the first one. I was ironing a shirt in the morning before work, and I played it just like I would any other book or podcast or anything else that I listened to. And I realized that it's all of the things that have been so valuable to me, compressed down into a 12, 15-minute sort of primer directly from you. And I can play that multiple times. I can get that repetition at scale, right? I can listen to it 2 or 3 times in the morning while I'm getting ready. And if I do that each day, by the end of the week, I've gone through the first or the second lesson, 10 to 12 times. And we know that, if it's working out or doing anything, that consistency, frequency, that's how it gets done. So that was my immediate reaction, was this is a game changer because it can be consumed multiple times at convenience and constantly serve to remind you of those principles.
Yeah, multiple times, the convenience of it. That's, those are the main reasons that we released it, was for the convenience. The scheduling became issues trying to get people all together on a Zoom. As you know, it's much more effective if we can do it in a group setting, but individually it works too. It's just coordinating all those different calls. And so when you pointed out, man, I'm listening to this as I'm ironing and as I'm going to work, and I'm listening to it over and over again. That was one of the things that we didn't foresee of the good coming out of it. And it's been great and beneficial for those people. So I've got to ask you, as you go through the letters of my bucket list, all 12 aspects, what's been your favorite letter that you've covered on your reverse, which now on your reverse bucket list?
Yeah. It's, for me, it's definitely meet a hero. So there's a marketer, his name's Dennis Yu. You've interacted with him a little bit on LinkedIn. And this is a guy who I bought all of his programs. I went through all of his courses, and I thought that the way he did business was clean. He did business for the right reasons. Just somebody that I really connected with from a, principled fundamental standpoint, but then just a humanistic. So he's a hero of mine. And back in February, he was speaking at an event in New York. It was a very intimate setting, sort of a loft style New York. It's not really my scene, but it was just very, very cool. And there was maybe 50 people in the room. So I was not only able to go and see the guy that I've, listened to on YouTube and podcast 1,000 times and taken all of his courses, but there he is 20 minutes away. So we get to the end of the night, and I'm just so excited to meet him. And all of a sudden there's this rushed finish. All right, well, Dennis has to get going. He's got a plane to catch. And all right, let's everybody thank Dennis for coming out tonight. And I realized that my opportunity to meet him is shrinking very quickly. People are still seated, and this guy's already packing his backpack, looking at his watch, talking to his assistant colleague that was there with him, Mark Wagner, saying, we got to go now. So I packed up all my stuff, and I beelined to the back of the room where we would intersect. And sure enough, I was able to grab him on the way out. It's Dennis, it's Tim Rowe. It's Tim Rowe from LinkedIn. And it was so cool because he instantly recognized me. We got to take a couple pictures on the way out to the elevator. But without that as a benchmark or as something that I wrote down and said, hey, I want to meet Dennis Yu, I might have gone to the conference. I might not have. I might have gone to the conference and had a great time and never pushed myself to go meet him. It just, again, back to the intentionality, it gave intent to me, not just wanting to meet this person, but saying, okay, you want to meet this person? Well, now make it an action item. Go do it.
Yeah. And I love that what you said there. You said that you wrote it down. We tell our people all the time, when the idea comes to your mind, that thought comes to your mind, write it down, because you're 42% more likely to accomplish it and take action on it if it's written down. And so immediately you wrote it down. And I love it because you took action on it. I won't forget the day you called me on that either and you told me the story. It's a great story to share. I love sharing that testimony with others that are in the life plan. But it all starts with writing it down and then taking the action on it. Looky there.
Can you see it?
It is. I can see
Dennis Yu. That's
You're
the first page. That's the first page of this book. You can see where I'm at. All right, meet Dennis Yu. That was, yeah, absolutely. I wrote it down, and then, it had to become real. I'd put it out into the world. It had to be something that I did.
I love it. So that's been your favorite one that you've accomplished. What's been one that's been maybe your least favorite or still working on, had to modify maybe even?
Yeah. So, it's another one that I wrote down, and the ultimate challenge, which comes back to my podcast, the ultimate challenge for me was I wrote down the goal of do one episode a week for the entire year, consistently put out the content that I was committing to make. I enjoy it. There's a lot of the process that is not native to me. I like to have the conversation. I don't like to do the heavy lifting behind it. I don't like to, chop it up into, a couple of little clips to use on different social media platforms. I don't like to do the soundbite. I don't like those things, but because I made this challenge to myself of, hey, do it right, and do it every single week for the entire year. again, I think it's just back to the power of writing it down. I'm holding myself to that. I made a commitment to myself to do an episode every single week and to do it right.
Yeah, very good. It's that accountability to yourself. And again, when we have you in a group and you announce that to the group and we go through the share time, once you've said that to the group, it's that group, what we call the positive peer pressure, right? The accountability. Yeah. And so you've shared it with me as I've been coaching you through it, and you're doing a great job with it. You really are. In fact, I think right now, if you told the truth, you're ahead of the curve, and you're having to do 2 or 3 a week. And you're right, the heavy lifting behind the scenes gets tough. And we tell people all the time, it's okay to modify, but you've kind of found out a way to make the system work, and you're going to have 52 of those bad boys before the year's over, aren't you?
Yeah. So right now I'm averaging 1.3 episodes a week. So I'm actually on pace to finish somewhere in the neighborhood of like 65 episodes throughout the year. And talking about the positive peer pressure, through doing the show, I've inadvertently created a new task for myself, and that's why I constantly am writing these things down. I started to float the idea out to people. Well, what if we did like a 3-day virtual advertising recovery summit? 1 hour a day for 3 days, moderated panels, biggest brands, the smartest people in our space. What if we did something like that? And maybe much to my chagrin, but nobody thinks it's a bad idea. So now there's this expectation from really, really established people in the industry that, oh, Tim Rowe's going to do this recovery summit thing. So now I got to do a recovery summit. By putting out the weekly session on Thursdays, same thing. It's the expectation. It's the peer pressure of the community that you're seeking to build. That, hey, Tim's saying he's going to do this, and he's going to do this. We've had, I just checked this morning, in just the first 3 weeks, we've had over 80 people register. We've got a 50% attendance rate. And if anybody's a fan of Gary Vee, he talks a lot about depth versus width. I'm not trying to get everybody in the world. I'm trying to get the right people that are in my space, and they're all being really receptive and supportive of it. So positive peer pressure is a really powerful motivator.
I love it. And so for those of them that are listening that are in and need to be in the marketing and advertising world, tell them again where they can find you, Tim. How do they find you?
Yeah, best way to find me is on LinkedIn. My name's Tim Rowe, but you can always visit the website, theoohinsider.com. That's just a really simple landing page. It'll redirect you to either YouTube or wherever you like to listen to podcasts to get familiar and get comfortable with the content. And right, just because we didn't get a chance to talk about it earlier, some of that content, even if you're not in the advertising marketing space, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in a business development type capacity, the guests that I have on are CEOs of some of the biggest companies. Again, 3 of the Inc. 5000 CEOs. There is something to learn from everybody. So whether you're in the advertising marketing space directly, or you're just looking to perform at a higher level, these are really high performance individuals that you're going to have an opportunity to just be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, it is. And again, it's great to listen to. And just like you, if you're an Audible guy, just, hit play wherever you are, listen to it, if we ever get back to the gym on the way to work, if we ever get to go back to the office, or just chilling at home and want to learn something very, very educational. I encourage you to check it out. Tim Rowe, the Out of Home Insider. Tim, I want to respect your time. Appreciate having you on today. Any other bucket list thing you want to add?
Yeah, man, you got me looking back at the list, and so much of it was sort of travel based and event based, and I'm kind of retooling on my bucket list. But let's pick one out, and I'll put it out into the universe, and the show can be my peer pressure. How about that?
Right.
Let's see. Take lessons. When we finally get back to the world. Yeah, I want to start training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again, or maybe I'll try Muay Thai this time, but some sort of combat defense type thing, just to just to get back in that groove. So take lessons.
There you go. There you go. Take lessons. And remember, for those listening, even if jiu-jitsu is not your deal, but you want to take lessons, so God gifted us YouTube. And so hop on YouTube or get on the interwebs, find what you want to learn. It's out there. Heaven forbid you know my story. I fixed a garbage disposal using YouTube, and I can't fix anything. So check it out. Take lessons. You can do this while you're at home, while you're quarantined, and enjoy it, because the bucket list life is a life worth living. Life's too short. Tim, again, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for always tuning in and coaching me through a little bit of bucket list and the podcast stuff. But most of all, thanks for being a participant and living the bucket list life. We've enjoyed having you.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, if you're still listening, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. Brad, it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. That wraps up this edition of Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. Remember, life's too short not to live a bucket list life, and the bucket list life is a life worth living.